Hello everyone, so today we are going to learn how to use Konva in React application. So let's try to go to framework and then React. As you can see here, we can use this Konva into React using this React Konva package. So what is Konva? Konva is powerful JavaScript library that let you draw and interact with shape on a canvas. Things like rectangle and circle and images and tags and more. It's perfect for building apps like image annotation tools, whiteboard, custom editors, and drag and drop UI designers. So basically, I'm going to show you how to use that, and we're going to build really simple app with this beautiful package. So let's get started. So the first thing is I'm going to generate a brand new React application using Vite. So I can run npm create Vite atlas, and the name of the app, I'm going to call that Konva React app, right? So I can cd to the Konva React app, and we can do npm install to install all the packages that default on the Vite basically. All right, so after that, we can just open the project into Visual Studio Code. Just do code space and then dot, it will open that on VS Code. So let's try to install the Konva package. Let's go back to documentation, and I'm going to copy all this command right here and just run it. It basically will install the React Konva and Konva itself. All right, it's done. So now we can run npm run dev. Let's open the source and then app.tsx. As you can see, this component is just really simple with div and heading too. So now let's try to see how we can use the React Konva. As you can see in here, the first thing is we have to create the canvas area. So we have to use state in this case, right? Stage component from the React Konva. So let's try to, I think I'm going to copy everything here, right? Let's try to do that in here. So window.inner width is basically the entire width that we have on the browser, and window inner height is basically the entire height, which is 100% in this case. So let's try to import the stage right here, and inside this stage we can use the layer, right? So let's try to put layer like this, and then inside the layer we can put basically text or rectangle or circle. So in this case, I just want to copy this text and rectangle. I'm going to copy and paste it like this. Of course, we have to import that text and rec. Come from the rec Konva. Let's try to save that, and let's try to open the localhost 5174. And this is what we have, right? Super simple. Anyway, on the stage right here, we can put background color if you want. So for example, I'm going to put a style set equals to the background. I'm going to setting that to F0, F0, F0. Let's try to save that. Let's take a look what we have. As you can see, this is the area of the canvas basically. So of course I can change that. For example, the height, I want to change the height into something like 500 pixel maybe. Save that, and this is basically the area for the canvas. So now let's take a look on the layer and then rec component in here. As you can see, this is basically the position of the rectangle. It should be x20, which is going to be 20 pixel from the left to the right side. If I do, for example, 200 pixel, it's going to be moved like this, right? Y is basically the position of the vertical. The width and height is the width and height of this rectangle. And the fill is the color, and the shadow blur. I just want to remove that shadow, right? And also the draggable is true, so that's why I can just drag like this. So anyway, the first thing that we are going to learn is how that we can drawing. So for example, here I'm going to drawing a rectangle, for example, how we can do that. So first we need to create new state to keep tracking the new rectangle. So let's go back to the code, and in here I'm going to paste this state. So as you can see, this state is called new rectangle, and then this basically have type rec type. So here on the top right here, I just want to copy and paste the type of the new rec state. I'm going to paste it like this. As you can see here, we have the x. X is basically the position, it's just number in this case. Width and height is also number, and ID is string. That's it. So how we can drawing. Anyway, on the stage right here, we can put a props function in here. I'm going to send the on mouse down props on this stage, and this basically will running the handle mouse down. So every time I click the mouse, it will basically run this function. So let's try to create a function on the top. Cons handle mouse down set equals to arrow function. For now, I just want to say console log click or whatever you want, just to make sure that this works. Let's try to go back in here, inspect, and then go to console. I hope you can see that. And here, I'm going to make sure everything should be clean. And then if I click inside the canvas area, as you can see here, if I click, we have that value, right? If I click that, we have that value. If I click outside the canvas area, of course, this is not going to be works. There's no value on the console, but if inside the canvas area, as you can see, it's counting basically. So first we have to know the area that we click on, right? The X position and the Y position. I'm going to create variable called stage ref set equals to use ref. And I'm going to put this stage ref as a ref on the stage component here. So let's try to put ref set equals to that stage ref. As you can see, we have TypeScript error that say we cannot use any types basically. So I'm going to put this Konva.stage or null. So the Konva should become from the package. As you can see in here, I just import the type. So it's not going to be import all the Konva package, just the type for this type right here. Okay, so here inside the handle mouse down, the way we get the position is we can use stageref.current and then we run the stage.get pointer position. And in here, as you can see, we have the X and Y. So if I console log the X and Y, so let's take a look what we have. X and Y, but we have this warning as well. State is possibly null. So what we are going to do here is I want to check if the stage is have a value. We have to run all of this, right? Just to make sure that we don't have any error. So now let's try to see on the console here. If I click, as you can see, we have the X position and also the Y position. If I click on the top right here, as you can see, the X is 7, the Y is 20. Super nice. Here on the X and Y, we also have the error, right? Property Y does not access on the type vector 2D or null. So anyway, in here, I just want to remove that and I'm going to say pointer position, just like this. And then I'm going to check that first. If the pointer position have a value, so I can do pointer position have a value, I'm going to destructuring the X and Y set equals to the pointer position, just like this. And now hopefully there's no error. As you can see, the error is gone. So if I put that inside in here, as you can see, the error is gone. Super cool. So we have the X and Y position right now. So let's put the position into the new rack state. As you can see in here, X equal to X, Y equals to Y, and then with 0, height 0. And then the ID is just come from the date.now and then just change that to the string. So now if I console log the new rack, right, just console log that so that we can see the value. Here, if I click, as you can see here, we have the X and Y and width and height basically. Super cool. So the handle mouse down function is done. So now we have to run another function as well on the stage. As you can see here, I send the on mouse move. That means if after I click that, I move my cursor, will be running. So handle mouse move will run. So I'm going to create that function. Here I want to say cons handle mouse move set equals to a function. So the next thing is I'm going to create another state on the top right here. I'm going to call that is drawing. So this basically will keep tracking I'm on the is drawing or not. So basically after I click the mouse, this is running, right? And then I'm going to set the is drawing after I set new rec in here into true. So I'm going to say set is drawing into true, right? Because by default, this is going to be false. All right, so here I want to check that first. If the new rec doesn't have value or the is drawing is false, I'm going to return nothing in here. What I have to do on handle mouse move is basically really similar like we're doing on the top right here. So I just want to copy and paste everything. The width and height, it should be changed now because I'm on handle mouse move. So let's try to just remove everything in here. And then I just want to make sure that we have the default value from the new rec. So I can grab all the value. So we can say new rec like this. And then for the width and height, I'm going to update that. For the width, I'm going to set that into the X decrement by new rec dot X, right? and for the y as well. So here is basically the height. The height is basically the y. It's decremented by new rec dot y, just like this. So now let's try to go back into the app and let's try. Here I'm gonna click that. As you can see, I'm gonna click that and nothing happened really because we did not render the new rec into the component, right? The new rec is not rendered basically down here. So let's try to render that. First, I'm gonna check if we have the new rec value. I'm going to render the rec component. So here I'm gonna say rec like this, and then I just want to put all the new rec value state on this as a prop. So I can say like all new rec like that. So for the color, I can do any color I want. And in this case, I'm going to put this color right here, right? Fill RGBA, and I use this color anyway. So let's try to go back. And as you can see, I just want to refresh that just to make sure everything should be clean. As you can see, if I click in here and drag it, as you can see here, we have that rectangle, right? That's super cool. So anyway, if I click that again, of course, this is not placed at that rectangle because we don't yet running the on mouse up. So that's what we are going to do now. So here I'm going to create the on mouse up. So I want to put the on mouse up props in here. Now let's try to create the handle mouse up function. Here I'm going to say const handle mouse up set equals to arrow function. And then what we have to do in here is just basically really simple. First, I'm going to check if we have the new rec angle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set the rec. We don't have yet the state, so I'm going to create the state on the top right here. It is basically the collection of the rec angle that we have on that canvas. So here, basically, I just want to copy and paste from my project here, as you can see. So this is basically the collection of the rec angle on the canvas. So I'm going to put the new rec angle here into the rec angle collection. I hope this makes sense. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to say set rec, right, into. So I want to make sure that the available rec is still going to be adding right here. And then after that, I put the new rec angle. So, and then here I'm going to set the new rec angle into null, right? We don't have new rec angle right now. And the set is drawing back to false, right? Let's try. So now as you can see, if I click and drag it, as you can see here, we have the rec angle. But the rec angle is not placed on the canvas because we don't do anything with the rec right here, right? If I, for example, console log that, so we have the collection of the rec right here. As you can see, we have just one. If I do that again, as you can see, we have two. If I do that again, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. So now what we have to do is we need to map through all these rec angle and then render that, right? So it's pretty simple basically. So what we have to do is let's go to inside the layer and we have to just mapping the rec state in here. Let's try to map the rec's value in here. As you can see, we have the recs.map. We get the individual rec, and then inside in here we're running the rec component. The key is basically come from the rec.id. This is basically the date, right? And then put all the rec available value in here, like x position, y, width, and height. And the fill color is this one right here. The opacity, I'm gonna setting that to 0.5. Right, so I just want to remove this default rec with red color in here, right? Just to make sure everything should be clean. As you can see now, all the rec angle is just a render, right? I just want to remove everything, and let's try to do that again. Here, I'm gonna say this rec angle, I'm gonna release that. Now it's placed right here. Super cool, right? This is just works basically. Nice, right? Super nice. But if you want to add draggable functionality, for example, in here you put this draggable, and then now let's try to drag it. As you can see, it's basically still working, right? I'm going to refresh that. Let's do that again. Yeah, it's still working just fine, I think. Super cool. So after you're drawing the rec angle like this, maybe you want to download that canvas. So basically you can do that in here on the documentation on the canvas export. As you can see in here, you can download the canvas as an image, for example. This is basically the example. As you can see in here, I can download and just show you the image, right? So how about this right here? Pretty simple. The first thing is what we have to do is create the button for download. So anyway, I just want to copy and paste come from here. This is just really simple button. As you can see, I just want to copy that, and you can put the button whatever the place you want. In this case, I'm going to put that under the heading too. As you can see here, this button is just running handle export function. So let's create that function, handle export. Right, so let's take a look on the UI. This is basically the button, right? So the way we're using that is just pretty simple. The first thing is we have to put this one right here, right? Paste that. This basically create the URI variable and stageref.current.data to data URL. And as you can see, we have the error. It's basically the stageref.current is possibly null. So that's why in here we have to check that first. So before we get the data URL, I just want to make sure that if the stageref.current doesn't have value, just return nothing in here, right? And then after we get the URI, anyway, we have to run the download URI function. So let's create that function. So I just want to copy and paste from this simple documentation here. I'm going to create that on the top, maybe just like this. So anyway, for the URI, it should be have type string, and for the name, it should be have type string as well. And this function, I'm going to return that as a void, just like this. And also here we have error again because we're working with TypeScript. Here for the link, should be the HTML anchor element. And also we still have the error unexpected var, use let or con instead. So I'm going to use cons right here, and now the error it should be gone. So anyway, our application is clean right now. So let's take a look. This is working or not. So I'm going to drawing a shape right here, rectangle, right? Just really simple things, and let's try to move like this, maybe whatever I want. So now let's try to click here to export stage as image. As you can see here, this is the result. So anyway, this is working. You can basically put rectangle or circle or images or text, whatever you want to put on the canvas is basically working. As you can see in here, you can see this image, right here. You can drag like this. There's a lot of example that you can learn from this Konva documentation. You can just check that out. As you can see here, we can also put animation, really simple animation, right, like this. Okay, you can just learn everything on the documentation. I hope this video is helpful and you can implement the Konva package in your React application. Thank you so much for watching, guys. See you on the next one.